Grady Demond Wilson, born on October 13th, 1946, and passing peacefully on January 30th, 2026, lived a life defined not by celebrity alone, but by purpose, faith, and perseverance. To millions, he will always be remembered as Lamont Sanford, the calm, grounded son on Sanford and Son, a role that made him a familiar presence in American homes throughout the 1970s. Yet reducing his life to that single achievement would miss the deeper truth. Wilson was a man of many chapters: actor, soldier, author, pastor, husband, and father. He experienced early success, personal hardship, spiritual awakening, and quiet reinvention. By the time of his passing, his estimated net worth reflected a steady career, but his real wealth came from the values he lived by. His story is one of reflection over recognition and meaning over applause. Early roots and a childhood shaped by the arts. Although Grady Demond Wilson was born in Valdosta, Georgia, his formative years unfolded in New York City, where his family relocated while he was still young. The city's cultural energy awakened his creative spirit almost immediately. By the age of 4, Wilson had already appeared on a Broadway stage, an early sign of the path ahead. Dance became his first language of expression, and he trained in tap and ballet with discipline beyond his years. At just 12 years old, he performed at Harlem's Apollo Theater, a historic space where countless legends were shaped. That moment was more than a performance. It was a confirmation that storytelling and movement would be central to his life. Even as a child, Wilson carried himself with focus and humility, laying the foundation for a career built on craft rather than ego. Faith, fragility, and a promise that endured faith played a powerful role in Wilson's upbringing and would eventually shape his entire adult life. Raised Catholic, he served as an altar boy and even briefly considered the priesthood. Summers spent with his Pentecostal grandmother introduced him to a different spiritual rhythm, one that emphasized personal testimony and devotion. At the age of 13, his life took a dramatic turn when his appendix ruptured, nearly costing him his life. That moment of vulnerability left a permanent imprint. Facing mortality so young led Wilson to make a private vow to God, promising a life of service if he survived. Though fame would later enter his life, that promise never faded. It remained quietly present through every success and struggle, guiding decisions long before the world ever knew his name or recognized his face. Service, sacrifice, and the weight of experience. From 1966 to 1968, Wilson served in the United States Army as part of the 4th Infantry Division during the Vietnam War. The experience was intense and transformative. He was wounded in combat, returning home with scars both visible and unseen. Like many veterans of his generation, he carried the emotional weight of war quietly, choosing resilience over complaint. Upon returning to civilian life, Wilson found healing through performance, channeling pain into creativity. He immersed himself in Broadway and off-Broadway productions, using storytelling as a way to process what words alone could not express. Those years strengthened his emotional depth as an actor, giving his later performances a grounded authenticity. The discipline, loss, and survival he experienced during military service shaped not only his work, but his perspective on life, gratitude, and purpose. From early screen roles to a career-defining break. Wilson's transition from stage to screen happened steadily rather than suddenly. He appeared in guest roles on major television series such as Mission, Impossible, and All in the Family, making strong impressions even with limited screen time. His film work during this period included projects like The Organization and Dealing, or the Berkeley to Boston 40 Brick Lost Bag Blues. These early roles sharpened his on-camera presence and prepared him for the opportunity that would change everything. In 1971, Wilson was cast as Lamont Sanford on Sanford and Son. The role fit him naturally. His calm restraint balanced the explosive energy of Red Fox, creating a dynamic that felt real, humorous, and deeply human. That chemistry turned the show into a cultural landmark and Wilson into a television mainstay, carrying success and quiet emotional weight. During its peak years, Sanford and Son became one of the most watched shows in America, drawing tens of millions of viewers each week. When Red Fox temporarily left the series in 1974, Wilson unexpectedly carried the show as its central figure, handling the responsibility with professionalism and grace. Though Fox later returned, the experience left emotional marks. Wilson later shared that his deepest hurt came not from the departure itself, but from learning about it indirectly rather than through personal communication. Still, he chose forgiveness over resentment, valuing the bond they shared, on screen and off. You could see that connection in every episode. Rather than letting disappointment harden him, Wilson leaned into empathy. His ability to balance success with emotional honesty revealed a man more interested in integrity than ego. Reinvention beyond the spotlight. After Sanford and Son ended in 1977, Wilson continued acting with purpose. He starred in Baby I'm Back and later portrayed Oscar Madison in The New Odd Couple, offering a fresh interpretation of a classic character. Film roles followed, including Full Moon High, Me and the Kid, and Hammerlock. Yet even as his career remained active, Wilson felt drawn towards something deeper. In 1984, he fulfilled the vow he made as a child by becoming an ordained minister in the Church of God in Christ. From that point on, faith was no longer a private anchor, but a public calling. He stepped away from mainstream Hollywood opportunities that conflicted with his values, choosing service and spiritual work over visibility and acclaim. Writing, ministry, and purposeful expression. Wilson's later years brought a new form of expression through writing. He authored books grounded in his Christian worldview, exploring spirituality, personal growth, and faith-based concerns. His memoir, Second Banana, offered an honest reflection on his Sanford and Son years, balancing gratitude with transparency. In ministry, he appeared on faith-based television, participated in religious theater, and supported projects centered on redemption and healing. These efforts were not about reinvention, but alignment. Wilson lived intentionally, allowing his actions to reflect his beliefs. Fame became secondary to service. He understood that influence could exist without constant exposure. Through teaching, writing, and mentoring, he reached audiences far removed from sitcom reruns. His voice matured, rooted in reflection rather than performance, proving that purpose does not fade when the spotlight dims. Family, farewell, and an enduring legacy. Wilson married model Cicely Johnston in 1974, and together they raised 6 children. Family remained his anchor through every chapter of his life. He passed away at his home in Palm Springs, California, from cancer-related complications at the age of 79. His passing marked the end of a remarkable journey, but not the end of his influence. Grady Demond Wilson leaves behind a legacy defined by humility, courage, and faith. He made people laugh, but he also made them think. He proved that success can coexist with conviction and that walking away can be as powerful as staying. Though the screen has gone dark, his light remains in the lives he touched, the stories he told, and the values he lived by.